They're coming off of a bye week. We don't know what that means. We won't waste a lot of time pondering what that means. We just better respect the fact that they can throw a wrinkle or two at us that had been on video, such as the case when you're playing somebody that's coming off of that. And I'm optimistic about all of those guys being available, but again, there'll be no bold predictions. We'll see where the week leads us.
And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Brodge Ritchie, here on the Mad Steel Podcast.
This thing belongs to Mr. Rohde, belongs here, and let's see if we can bring it back here next year, along with the Super Bowl. Here we go.
The game is over. The Pittsburgh Steelers did it the hard way.
With the 10th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Devin Bush, linebacker,
And welcome everybody to this edition here of the Mad Steel Podcast. Joining as always with me, Charles Brodge Ritchie. Right now, the Steelers will look to go do battle at Heinz Field this Sunday, which is going to be a late afternoon game against the LA Rams. It's going to be in Heinz Field, as that will be at 3:25 p.m. Central Standard Time. As everyone may recall, the Steelers, they went, as a matter of fact, don't forget this past October, they went 2-1, 1-0 to start off. Right now, in the month of November, which Mike Tomlin does tend to struggle just a little bit, still has a winning record overall, but that game will be on Fox. Then after that, everyone remembers the Steelers got the tough stretch coming up next. After that, as they'll shortly be facing the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland on Thursday Night Football. Then, of course, they got to go on the road against the Bengals. So 2 straight road games, and then at home against the Cleveland Browns. 3 straight AFC North opponents. Plus, I got the latest injury report for for this Sunday's game coming up. And more stuff coming up later on. Again, if you guys want, feel free to be part of the Mad Steel Podcast. You can find the Facebook page, which is Mad Steel Podcast. And if you guys have already searched the page before, you can also type in Men of Steel Nation. That's capital M, capital S, capital N. You can also catch me streaming currently live on my Instagram and my YouTube channel, which is Men of Steel Nation for Instagram and Men of Steel Podcast for the YouTube channel. The number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232. I can be followed on Twitter at Prodigy Ritchie. You can also check out the Mad Steel Podcast Twitter page, which is at Mad Steel CJR. I am also the host of On Deck on CSR, which is every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You could find that Facebook page. Search ChicagoLandSportsRadio.com. I host On Deck. Also got a Facebook page for that, as well as Twitter. That's both at On Deck CSR, as well as my Instagram at On Deck CSR. And ready to get into a lot of interesting stuff right now. As, of course, everyone's well aware, too, don't forget, you got Aaron Donald, who's going to be one of the key matchups going into this Sunday. I mean, don't forget Aaron Donald, which, by the way, who is very familiar to the Pittsburgh area, as a matter of fact. Don't forget, he went to University of Pittsburgh, as a matter of fact. I mean, you're going to be having a tall marching order this Sunday when you take on a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 5-time Pro Bowl, 4-time All-Pro. And this guy is definitely a beast. Very quick here. Talk about some interesting stuff, like how it's going to be a little bit difficult to try and trying to double team this guy. How much guys you're gonna have to put on there? But yeah, it's definitely gonna be another challenging task. But at the same time, like I said, Mike Tomlin, when you look at his overall coaching, what he's been able to do so far as coach, I mean, in his overall tenure with, the Steelers and his whole career, don't forget, he is number one in Steelers history as far as going up against winning teams, which, as a matter of fact, right now, when you look at it, is at 56-29. So he is about 27 games over 500 in that regard. That's tops. And that's one thing you got to be encouraged about. And that's the thing about the Steelers. To no one's surprise, they always find a way to be on these late rolls. When it comes to be on the primetime stage, this is not a primetime game, but late afternoon game, it's pretty much close enough to it. I would imagine Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will get the call for this one. This has got to be like the Fox game of the week, in my opinion. Not sure who that's going to be. But, definitely got, like I said, nonetheless, some tall working orders, going into this game right now, as a matter of fact. And both of them, with tremendous defenses right now. And I think one guy, aside from Aaron Donald, you're going to have to watch out for is definitely Jalen Ramsey. This is a guy who's definitely been familiar with the Steelers when he was a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Definitely was one of the guys who was able to terrorize Ben Roethlisberger, make some key turnovers. The last time he was in Pittsburgh was in the playoffs, where the Steelers had early exit in the 2017 playoffs. They lost in the divisional round at home in Heinz Field. But as it stands right now, the Steelers right now, they have the number 11th ranked defense in this contest here. And right behind them at number 12 is the is the Los Angeles Rams. Excuse me for botching that one. But you definitely, like I said, going to be a real war of nutrition coming up here. And the Steelers are going to try and do what they could do as they try to remove the September stench continued right now. Try and get a game over 500 and still try and keep pace within the AFC North Division. And more importantly, try at least move up and get in the playoff spot for the time being. And that's what you really got to look at right now. It's just been playing with a lot of pride. A lot of guys feel like they're clicking right now on all cylinders. When you look at this right now. But, let's look at some of the headline topics going into this game right now. As reported by Steelers writer, and she can be followed at Teresa_Barley. She reports for at Steelers. Bud Dupree was named the AFC Defensive Player of the Week for his performance in the Steelers' win over the Indianapolis Colts Sunday at Heinz Field. Let's not forget. And remember, Bud Dupree had that amazing, huge 3rd-and-1 tackle for loss late in the game, which pushed the field goal a little bit back for Adam Vinatieri right there. And you got to remember, his performance, winning that contest was just definitely remarkable. This is a guy right now who's still, a lot of people in the media are a little concerned right now that they traditionally have not done contract extensions during the season. And more than likely, he's going to probably be gone from the Steelers in the offseason. But, I hope that's not the case. But when you look at a guy like Bud Dupree for, his efforts, so far, like I said, within that last game for being named Defensive Player of the Week, he had 4 total tackles that day, along with a tackle for loss. Tackle for loss was a big noticeable thing right there in that contest. That really helped a lot of things right there. Think about it. He definitely made the field goal a little bit more difficult and challenging for Vinatieri right there. And a lot of people were talking about how the laces were in the bad spot for Vinatieri. I think that they were in as they really did not do him any favors to try and make that a kickable field goal. And that's where a lot of things were. Vinatieri was struggling, I think, throughout most of the year. He is going to be turning 47 years old right now. He's 46 as the moment. But again, I mean, this Steelers squad as of right now, I mean, Mike Tomlin, I mean, speaking with regards to Bud Dupree, he said, according to one of Dupree's teammates, you look at one of the defensive captains, Cam Hayward, he said Mike Tomlin challenged their side the most, and Bud took that to heart. All he heard all week was they've got one on their side, and I kept telling Bud, we got one on their side too. And no doubt about it. I mean, when you really look at this right now, I mean, that's just one of the key things. I mean, Bud Dupree, like I always said, he is a grinder at the end of the day, no matter what you say about his career. Obviously, there's just been a little bit more frustration. When you look at the outside linebacker position, he could definitely be getting a lot more sacks. I mean, at this point, but I mean, he's been matching career highs. I mean, so far, I mean, throughout his career overall. I mean, and that was noted by Angela Tegnelia, who, by the way, on the Pittsburgh Steelers, as a matter of fact, when we look at it, she can be followed on Twitter. As a matter of fact, when we take a look at it, hold on one second. Sorry about that, guys. She can be followed at Angela Tegnelia. That's Tegnelia. She is a communications assistant for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's not forget. I mean, when you look at it, and just really, I mean, impressive. I mean, remember, he's matching so far a career high in sacks with 6, 9 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles. 2 forced fumbles were the career high so far. And, yeah, I mean, this is one thing right now. I think just the only thing that's really – stenchy still about the Steelers team is their offense. I mean, which is ranked 28th right now. I mean, for Randy Fichtner right now. I think that's the only problem. I mean, it's just a little bit of concern right now. It's just some of these slow starts that they get into. I think you definitely got to have like the same attitude and the mindset when you go up this Sunday against the Rams. You got to do like what you did similarly against the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, you definitely want to start maximizing your opposed weaknesses early and often. And I really feel like right now the Steelers, they could definitely game up for that, as a matter of fact, when we look in that area. And it's definitely going to be a real telling sign as far as like what they need to do, what they need to focus on. But also another thing that was real noticeable too going to this game, according to Next Generation Stats, they can be followed at Next Gen Stats. Minka Fitzpatrick's play at safety has had a huge impact since coming to the Steelers. I mean, when you take a look about, I mean, since week 3, I mean, he is aligned as a deep safety on 85% of snaps with the Steelers, 22% with the Dolphins, that has helped shut down opponents' deep passing attacks. And it's almost kind of like Rod Woodson-esque. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, with the Steelers at this point in time. I mean, because remember, I mean, Rod Woodson was a corner, I mean, with the Steelers, but then he eventually converted himself to free safety over later in his career when he was with the Ravens. And you look at all that he's done. And I think about this, I mean, at this point in time, that's the kind of like impact he has on this team. And I would even take it a step further. I would even say a little bit almost like Deion Sanders when he came over to the 49ers. Listen, I mean, this defense is playing with a moxie. I'm not ready to call this team a Super Bowl contender, but I mean, they are definitely making some strides where they could possibly make the playoffs. I mean, at this point in time, after that disastrous start they had, I really think right now they are gelling a lot better. They're playing with an attitude. And let's not forget, too, shortly after when Mason Rudolph had that concussion suffered at the hands of Earl Thomas against the Ravens, which saw the Steelers go to 1-4 at that point in time, and there was still frustrations with the offense. I mean, you heard reports, I mean, in there, how guys just leveled up on people in the offense. I mean, like Cam Hayward leveling up on James Conner and some other guys. And right there, I mean, they just been playing with an attitude of chippiness on their shoulder at that point in time. And that's really what's been happening so far. And you look at it, and I'm going to look at that moment on right there where the Steelers have made, a turnaround in their season. It's been something from like that at that point in time, and that's what you do. I think you look at the turning points of your season, and you start to pinpoint what really made this team very special, and that's where I see it. It's just a certain moments in time you go look at and how you rally your troops together, and that's what you do right there. And I really think so. I think for right now, the Steelers, at this point in time, they got a lot of stuff going for them. Their defense is definitely treading in the upward position. You got Tom, and I even said this to a lot of people during the season too. Look at what Sean Payton was doing with the New Orleans Saints. And I was definitely saying, like, automatically, hands down, he should be coach of the year. But then when you also look at Mike Tomlin, if he gets this team to the playoffs, considering after all that, and possibly win the division, you got to give him high consideration coach of the year. Because he's not only doing, a second stringer, but a third stringer when you got Mason Rudolph, who gets hurt, and then Devlin Hodges with, of course, without the services of within the last few years of Le'Veon Bell, and now this year, Antonio Brown. Those are the things right there that makes a great coach right here. And just to try and put the critics to bed about how in the beginning when he won that Super Bowl with a Bill Cowher-led team, overall, he's definitely implemented his own key players that are not on Cowher's staff. At that point in time, such as like a William Gay, a Lawrence Timmons. Those guys were definitely key attributes right there. I think Ryan Clark was another one, as a matter of fact, who won the Super Bowl with that team. You also had to find a way to move on from Jerome Bettis at that point in time. With the running game at that point, when you had a guy like Willie Parker in there. So you really had a lot of stuff you had to make little tweaks around there. And those are Mike Tomlin guys at the end of the day, whether we like it or not. He has found some ways to ride the ship and prove, it's not always going to be necessarily on him to be the guy, scapegoat here. I remember how funny it is after they had that 1-4 start, Daniel Snyder of the Washington Redskins had Mike Tomlin at the top of his wish list for a head coaching candidate to replace in D.C. And I remember Brian Diallo of CBSSports.com, who's also the interactive host, by the way, on social media, he was definitely saying, too, that he definitely feels like the end is near coming up for Mike Tomlin, which could still be possible. Obviously, he's going to finish out this season, but how it was being reported at that point in time, I remember how when that report came out, the stuff really started hitting the fan at that point in time, and you notice right there how a lot of people recap Tomlin's tenure with the Steelers and what he's did, and really think about, hey, it may be time for him to go. He probably worn out his welcome with a lot of Steeler fans. Overall, people have been frustrated with him having a hard time making adjustments, or just coming up, or just not moving on from his guys. Him being too loyal to his coaching staff. At the end of the day, guys, he is a great coach. Not too many guys could win 2 Super Bowls and do what he's did and be maintain the same level of consistent success. Winning about overall, when you look at it and you start to realize what he's been overall to this team, who's actually won about 65% of his games in his career. He's at 129-70-1 at this point. And which, by the way, he's also, at this point in time too, when you look at it, he is also, speaking of which, closing in on Bill Cowher, who's at 149-90-1. So he's got 20 games to match Bill Cowher, 21 to pass him. I mean, that could probably happen. I mean, at this point in time, when you think about probably within the next 3 seasons or probably throughout the duration of his contract. So, I mean, those are things to really consider about right now, overall, and what he's been able to do. Again, if you want to get in on the Metal Steel podcast, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richie, as well as check out the Metal Steel Twitter page at Metal Steel CGR, as well as Instagram live stream Metal Steel Nation, my YouTube live channel, Men of Steel Podcast. Now let's get into some other notables real quick too. And going back to Mika Fitzpatrick, as a matter of fact, I mean, he definitely had like a ferocious speed. I mean, when we returned that 96-yard interception return for a touchdown, as a matter of fact, when you looked at it in that contest. And when we looking at it too, according to NFL Generation stats, he was the fastest ball carrier in the NFL Week 9 on his 96-yard interception return for a touchdown. He reached 21.48 miles per hour, the 11th fastest time of the season. And that's pretty incredible too when you look at it right there. I mean, with a guy like Minka. I know a lot of people have been scratching their heads at the time when the Steelers made that trade, the same day when they had to announce that Ben Roethlisberger had to have season-ending elbow surgery. And people really were just thinking, like, why would you do that in case we needed to get a quarterback in the draft? I mean, when you only have like 2 quarterbacks really who are going to be in the top 20 at that point in time. And that's where I was kind of like scratching my head at too. I mean, when you look at, I mean, not so much, but I mean, I'm just scratching my head at the backlash a lot of people were putting into it. This was definitely a position you were going to need, no doubt about it. You need to get something right. And if it's only going to last throughout the duration of his contract, so be it. I mean, remember, I mean, at this point in time, he's still got like about 2-3 more years left on his deal when you look at it. And that's the thing right here. I really feel like right now, when you look at it, Fitzpatrick, I mean, this is a guy who's going to be turning 23 years old, as a matter of fact, which, by the way, his birthday, which is has already been passed, so he is 23 years old as of right now. That was this past Monday. Happy belated birthday, Minka. And just been an awesome player to have on this team. I mean, so far, I mean, what he's doing. And the thing is, I mean, since joining the Steelers right now, he's having a career high in interceptions right now since coming over. He's got 4. That's the most ever he's gotten. Plus, he's got a fumble recovery. Remember, he's got the second highest takeaways on the defense right now as far as the team goes. And that says a lot about like where he is at as far as he is doing for this organization. And I truly enjoy Mika Fitzpatrick. I really do. Like I said, it's got a lot of swagger, got a lot of moxie, and just really just doing wonders. I mean, for this defense, he has been good as advertised. Still glad to see them pick him up right now. I mean, at this point in time, as we look at it, I mean, for right now. And it's just definitely like something you got to pay attention to, you got to reckon with, and realize he is going to be someone that is going to help make incredible contributions to this team going forward and not let this ship go down so easily. I mean, Mike Thomas' team, at the end of the day, is always going to find a way to come out fighting. Now let's get into some other topics here on the Metal Steel podcast right now. According to Missy Matthews right now, too, the defense has forced 22 turnovers in the first 8 games of 2019, which ranks second in the NFL. The last time the Pittsburgh Steelers had 22 takeaways in the first 8 games of the season was As a matter of fact, in 1992, that was the first year when Bill Cowher came over following Chuck Noll's departure. That says a lot about right there where they're at. Very pretty darn impressive. And also, by the way, too, the Steelers at home against West Coast teams, by the way, they are 11-5 at Heinz Field when opponents from the West Coast. Obviously, right now they are on a 2-game losing streak in that regard when they lost their last 2 games to the Seattle Seahawks and LA Chargers. But, I mean, overall, I mean, when you look at it too, I mean, this is definitely some real impressive stuff right now. But I got to tell you, they're definitely going to have their hands full, like I said, this Sunday, whether you like it or not. And they got to definitely find some things to readjust. I got to tell you, it's not just Todd Gurley. I mean, Aaron Donald had to watch out for. You almost got to wonder how much like a guy like Todd Gurley, what's he going to do, I mean, with this team. Remember, this is a guy who's had like the knee pain throughout the year he's been battling. And we're not too sure about like how he's going to be. But let's take a look at the injury report going into this weekend as we look at right now for this point in time. So the injury report, we're going to have 6 starters on there. You got 2 of which are non-injury related. I'm talking about none other than left inside linebacker Mark Barron and center Marquise Pouncey. Those 2 guys did not practice, but the key notable guys on here who you have to be concerned with going into this game, as a matter of fact, I mean, when you look at it, would have to be fullback Roosevelt Nix and, of course, left guard Ramon Foster. Roosevelt Nix has a knee injury. He did not practice. I mean, he's been having that all season pretty much. I mean, he finally showed up a couple weeks ago. Then, of course, you got Ramon Foster with the concussion, who's still in concussion protocol, making some progress. He's been limited in practice today, which has been a pretty good sign. But then you also still got James Conner, who Mike Thomas sounded pretty optimistic about. He had a shoulder injury. He was limited in practice. But then you also got Vance McDonald, who did not practice due to a shoulder injury. So that's one guy you have to keep an eye on. But other than that, the guys overall, like your bench players, like Ryan Switzer, Benny Snell, and Trey Edmonds. Switzer, who's dealing with a back injury, he did not practice. Yeah, Snell with the knee injury, he did not practice. More than likely, he's going to be out this coming Sunday. And then, of course, Trey Edmonds with the ribs, who has stellar performance this past Sunday. I think he had like about 78 rushing yards against Colts, and he's got ribs injury right now. He did not practice. As far as the LA Rams go right now, when we look at their team and what they got to like get ready for this Sunday, as far as like their injury report goes, I mean, heading into this game right now, I mean, you got Malcolm Brown right now, who right now is one of your running backs. He is a backup running back. He has an ankle injury. He did not practice. You also have right now 2. You got inside linebacker Bryce Hager. He has a shoulder injury. He did not practice. Then, of course, you also got left cornerback Troy Hill. He's got a hamstring. He did not practice. Then you also got starting outside linebacker Clay Matthews. He did not practice due to a jaw injury. And last but not least, for the LA Rams, which, by the way, you got left tackle Andrew Whitworth. He has got no injuries at all. It's not an injury related. He did not practice. But like I said, you got 4 guys pretty much like Bryce Hager, Troy Hill, Clay Matthews, and Andrew Whitworth. Those are the guys for the Rams as far as their injury report goes, as a matter of fact. So we'll find out what happens as we get ready to move on into that category right there. And now let's get ready to wrap things up here in just a moment here with some fair or foul here as we take a look at here. This is the Mass Steel Podcast. Me, Charles Bradley Ritchie, as we look at it right now. As a matter of fact, let's get ready to close things out. Fair or foul topic number 1. Mark Barron will be able to relay enough of an insight with his teammates to find a way to slow down defensive tackle Aaron Donald. I'm going to have to say fair on that one, only because of the offensive line right now. Being number one and giving up the fewest sacks. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a tall marching order going to this Sunday, but I believe they could get the job done. I really think they will be able to devise up a good enough game plan. And that's one of the things you got to like if you're a backup quarterback and Mason Rudolph. And then also the Steelers will get a game over 500. I'll go fair on that one. Why not? I mean, considering their record at home against West Coast teams, and last but not least, sounding optimistic that James Carter will be available against the Rams with his shoulder. I'm going to say fair on that one. That's going to do it for this edition of the Men of Steel podcast. Me, Charles Bradrici. Remember, you can check me out every Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And as always, remember, you can always dial in. The number going forward is 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on Twitter at PrideRichie, at Men of Steel CJR, and check out my Instagram, Men of Steel Nation, which I go live on, and then my YouTube live channel, Men of Steel Podcast. As always, don't be trolling, be roiling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.